Hello, good morning, and welcome. My name is Anthony Sanders, S-A-N-D-E-R-S, and I am a staff attorney for the Institute for Justice in our Minnesota chapter. I stand here today with three men. These two on the left, and this man here. They are our clients in a major lawsuit we have just filed against the city of Milwaukee. We filed the lawsuit because the city is violating their constitutional right to earn an honest living. These men are taxi drivers. They simply want to own their own taxi cab businesses. But the city has a law that makes it impossible for them to do so. In the city, there are only 321 legal taxi cabs, each with a permit. If you want to start your own business, you have to buy a permit from somebody else. Because there's only so many permits, the price of a permit has skyrocketed. And currently estimates are that usually a permit costs about $150,000. That's more than the price of an average Milwaukee house. A taxi cab should not cost more than a house. Because of this system, taxi cab companies are able to charge their drivers exorbitant rents for the right to drive taxi cabs. Drivers typically work as independent contractors, paying a weekly rental fee to drive around a cab. They have to pay that fee in their own gas. Sometimes rents are over $1,000 a week. This forces the drivers to effectively live as urban sharecroppers, paying a weekly rental charge, after which they have little or nothing left for themselves and their families. People say taxi cabs are different than any other industry, and therefore we can't have too many of them. That is simply not true. Taxi cabs are like any other business. You don't hear anyone saying there should be a certain number of restaurants in town, or a certain number of hardware stores or painting companies. No, instead we let consumers choose how many companies there are and let them compete against each other. The same should be true for taxi cabs. We are trying to bring some hope to the drivers of this city. In addition to this lawsuit, and completely independently of the Institute for Justice's efforts, some taxi cab drivers have gotten so fed up with the system that they have recently formed their own association, and a few of them are here today. The association has over 100 members and is growing. What we are doing is what Americans have done for over 200 years, taking their case to the courts when the government violates their civil liberties. My three clients are amazing men. Each of them is simply trying to follow the American dream. One of them will speak in a moment. His name is Ghalib Ibrahim. I'll spell that for you. G-H-A-L-E-B-I-B-R-A-H-I-M. Ghalib came to this country about 30 years ago. He settled in Milwaukee and tried following the American dream by driving a taxi cab. At first, it was a good job because there wasn't a system in place capping the number of permits. However, in 1991, that changed when then Alderman Thomas Nardelli sponsored an ordinance that capped the number of cabs at the current level. Since then, Ghalib found that taxi cab rents rose as the price of permits rose, and eventually he had to get out of the business and currently drives a limo. Another one of our clients who will also speak is Jatinder Cheema. I'll spell that for you, J-I-N-D-E-R-C-H-E-E-M-A. Mr. Cheema also has lived in this country about 30 years, also trying to follow the American dream. He's driven a Milwaukee taxi cab for about the last 10 years, driving a night shift. He would like to own his own business, but he can't afford to do so because of the city's law. And finally, we have Amitpal Singh. I'll spell that for you, A-M-I-T-P-A-L-S-I-N-G-H. Amitpal and his family escaped religious persecution by coming here a few years ago. His father also is a taxi cab driver. Amitpal is a driver currently and is trying to finish his schooling, and when he gets out, he and his father hope to start their own taxi cab business. The problem is they don't have $150,000, let alone $300,000. We'll hear from the clients, a couple of the clients in a moment. First, however, I'd like Caitlin McBride to say a few words, specifically about research we have done in the past on taxi regulations. Caitlin?
Good morning and thank you for joining us. My name is Caitlin McBride, MCBRIDE, and I am a staff attorney with the Minnesota chapter of the Institute for Justice. The Institute for Justice is a libertarian public interest law firm founded in 1991 and dedicated to fighting for individuals' liberties. The Institute for Justice has a long tradition of defending individuals' economic liberties. That is, the right of individuals to earn an honest living, free from unreasonable government interference. It is in that tradition that today we have filed a major lawsuit against the city of Milwaukee for imposing an unconstitutional cap on the number of cab licenses in the city. This case is developed out of research developed in IJ's Milwaukee City Study, published in 2010 entitled Unhappy Days for Milwaukee Entrepreneurs. A copy of the city study is included within each of your press packets. Now I would like to turn over the comments to one of our clients who is here with us today, Galib Ibrahim.
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ibrahim Galib. I lived in the city since 83, 84. I drove taxi since 87. The situation had changed a lot. That's why we are here today. As a citizenship of this country, I have the right to apply for a taxi license and operate my own taxi. As much as the city has the right to ask me to go and serve on their jury duty. That's one thing. The other thing is, do we need taxi in the city? Yes, we do. And if you look around, you'll see a plenty of limo, a plenty of other vans. The third point is, the economic situation in this city and in USA requires job creation. And this is part of it. The city has to allow us to apply for our own taxi, to operate our own businesses. Thank you very much.
And now we'll hear a few words from our client, Jatinder Chima. Mr. Chima? Mr. Chima, again, was featured in our city study.
Good morning, sir. I'm a taxi driver in Milwaukee City. I would like to have, my own business. If taxi, the city hall gave us a tag, and it's very hard. We are paying like $400 a week rent. It's hard to make money these days. And I would like to buy the tag, but the price is like $150,000. It's really, not helping us. So I got a request city to please issue us, new tags. This be, wonderful for everyone. Thank you very much.
And now we'll take your questions for the Institute for Justice and our clients, and then I'm going to turn it over to the association. But first, if there are questions for us. The permit system was instituted in 1991 for the silliest of reasons. The Common Council said that it was cumbersome having a hearing every year for people to reapply for permits, which was the old system. There was no cap, but they would have a hearing every year to see who should get a license. And they thought instead of that, they should just make things simpler and not give out any more permits and let people trade them and just file new permits when they were sold. So there was no reason to do with public health and safety when the law was changed. It was just bumbled into by the Common Council. And in fact, then Alderman John Cowitz warned everybody that something like this was going to happen, and that because they were capping the number of permits, the price was going to rise. In fact, he said, I don't want to see the cost of a permit go up to $10,000. Well, now that warning has been made true 15 times over. Well, prices are not tracked in any way. They're individual sales. So we have spoken to many drivers about what they have been quoted if they would buy a permit from someone else. And what we have heard over and over again is $150,000. I saw in the paper this morning one of the largest owners, in fact, the largest owner, Mike Sanfilippo, said he was able to get the last couple for $80,000. That could be true for individual sales. $80,000 is still an outrageous price to charge for the right to drive a taxi cab, to own a taxi cab, but many permits, we have been told, do sell for $150,000 or even more. if you want to start your own taxi cab business, it costs about $10,000. All you need is a used vehicle, insurance, startup costs for gas, dispatch fees, and blood, sweat, and tears. Other than that, it doesn't cost a whole lot to start a taxi cab business. But because of the city's law, it does.
Is this a rare system, or is this commonplace?
This, unfortunately, is commonplace across the country. But cities and across the world, but more and more cities, both in this country and in other countries, have deregulated their taxi markets and lifted caps. In fact, the city of Minneapolis recently lifted its cap. It had a similar system, and now it has over double the number of cabs that it did before. There are over 650 cabs in Minneapolis now. That's a city that is smaller than Milwaukee, which shows that the market is begging for more cabs, but the city of Milwaukee will not allow them to do so.